Hi everyone, it's Suzanne here. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to share with you my second project with the February kit from Aunty Vera Scrap and Craft. So for this project I'm doing a mixed media canvas. This canvas measures 9.5 by 13 inches and I purchased it from Daiso. The tissue paper that I'm laying down on top is also from Daiso, and I'm using some Liquitex matte gel medium to put that down on the canvas, and that's going to be my background. So the tissue paper's a bit of a mixture of designs. It has the Eiffel Tower, it has all kinds of postmarks, birds, all different kinds of things, clock faces. It's just a nice light grey shade, which is perfect for a background. Here I'm just rolling it all down to make sure there's no bubbles. A few wrinkles is fine, but you don't want big bubbles under your paper that aren't stuck down. Just missed a little bit on the corner there. I've put that aside to dry and I move on to a paintbrush. So this paintbrush has a 4-inch wide bristle, and you can see I've got some blue stencils there. Now they have a sticky back. They're very inexpensive ones that I got from a kind of dollar store. It's more like a $5 store nowadays. But they are terrific stencils because you don't have to hang on to them. They're sticky on the back. If you wash them and look after them, I've had them for quite a while and I've used them quite a few times, and I just try and look after them best I can, and they're still as sticky as the day I got them. So I've finished putting down the texture, so I use some Finnabair texture paste, and I've got that all on the handle. If I'd done it again, I think I would have done it on the bristles as well. So I pop that aside to dry and move on to the canvas. So I just use some, again, inexpensive acrylic paint. I use 4 different colours, like an apricot pink, a very light blue and some yellow, and I put those down on the canvas. I have mixed water with each of the colours so that it remains transparent. I don't want it to be hiding that design in the background, so I want to be able to see those things on the tissue paper in the background. And after I've laid down each of those colours, I put it aside to make sure that it's dry, and I go back to doing my paintbrush before I put down the stencil. So I'm going to be using the stencil from the February kit that has a lovely quote on it from Vincent van Gogh. So I'm just finishing off the canvas there, and then I'm going to pop it aside and move back to the paintbrush and colouring that. So to colour my paintbrush, I'm using some Lindy's Magical. So just using a palette there, I've sprayed some water into 3 little wells, and I'm using, it's supposed to be blonde, like a yellow, but it looks more a mixture between yellow and green, I suppose. This one is a teal colour, and I use a little bit of a brown as well. So I'm just going to be popping this on because I don't have the Lindy sprays. I just mix my own. I'm just going to be putting it on with a paintbrush. So I've made sure that my texture paste is dry, and I give the brush a very light misting with water so that the colour will move through all of that texture. This is great fun. You can see I've got quite a lot of paper towel there catching all the drips and stuff. So between each colour I have dried. So after I put the teal on, I dried it with my heat gun. Then I move on to this yellowy green colour. But between the layers I make sure and dry, otherwise everything will just be green if you mixed. You can see that in places it has turned green because I'm misting it with a small mister. But yeah, so try and make sure that between layers you are drying. Otherwise you won't get any kind of distinction. It'll just be whatever your two colours are when they're mixed together. Okay, so just spraying a bit more water to make it move around, and I'm taking it away to dry it. Adding a last little bit of the green, giving it a slight misting, and I'll add a little bit of brown, but in the end you can't really even tell where I put it down. I probably didn't use enough, but I still like the outcome anyway, so it didn't really matter. So when you use light colours to colour something, usually if you put some darker colours into the mix, it brings out more detail. So that's what I'm trying to do, but like I said, in the end, kind of couldn't even tell where I had put it. Maybe because my heat gun is, when I dried it, it kind of makes the paints spread. Alright, so I put that aside to dry, and I move on to back to the canvas to add the stencil. And you can see the stencil there. You can also see the cord to my iPad, which I'm recording on. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm just using some more of the same texture paste that I used earlier for the paintbrush, and I mix it with I'm mixing some of the Lindy's Magicals to make that beautiful blue, and I'm then going to use that through the stencil. And I think I held my breath the entire time I was doing this. I was so worried that I was going to mess it up, but it turns out to be turned out pretty good, I think. It worked really, really well. So because this February kit is called love and art. This stencil quote is just perfect. And you'll see what it says very, very soon. Like I said before, it's a beautiful quote by Vincent van Gogh. And I'm so pleased with the outcome. And obviously you can see I made way too much blue texture paste. Okay, and there it is. So you can see it says, the more I think about it, the more I realise there is nothing more artistic than to love others. And here I'm putting down my paintbrush. So I've added a bit of a stem of buds. On the back I'd put some E6000 glue, and then I've used the hot glue gun to put it down. So I add the E6000 so that it's just got that extra strong bond, so I know it's not going to fall off. And you can see there that I'm adding some flowers. So these are flowers I made myself with some Stampin' Dies from Heartfelt Creations, and I used also in the February kit is some bright gold Nouveau drops, and I added that to the centre of each of the flowers. So I'm just using some hot glue to put down the flowers, and I used a bit of I'm not really sure what it's called. I think it's called stencil or something. It's kind of like a mixture between straw and string. I'm not sure what it is. It was just in a bag. I got some pretend birds' eggs in a pack, and it was in there with it. So I'm not really sure what it's called, but it looks really cool underneath your flowers. Just adds a bit of interest and a bit more texture. Okay, so I made 3 different coloured flowers, blue, apricot and yellow, to kind of match the background, and I'm just placing them in various places over the canvas. And you can probably see there in the corner there's a little paint palette, and that is the next thing I'm going to be adding to this canvas. And this was the fun part of this project. So this little palette is years and years old. It was actually so old it had gone all yellowish, and I've had to paint it with a couple of coats of gesso and some white paint to get it nice and white. And here I'm about to melt some crayons into each of the little wells. So I start off with the dark blue, and this was just so much fun. I had a blast doing this. So I try and get it to fill the well. So behind the paint palette I made with my trusty hot glue gun, I made a large wedge of hot glue so that my palette tilted downwards, so that when the paint was in it, it tipped, or in this case the crayon that's supposed to look like paint. So it all runs down the canvas. So yeah, this was really good fun. They're just cheap crayons again from the cheap shop in town. Just super inexpensive, but really great colours. They were just perfect for what I needed. And the best part is I've still got lots left, so that I can do something like this again, because it really was just so much fun, and it leaves the best texture on the canvas. It looks really, really cool. I was just so pleased with how it turned out in the end. So yeah, I was a little bit worried that I was going to end up with a mud puddle in the middle, because I used that purple, and purple is that colour that seems to turn any other colour that you mix it with instantly to brown, but thankfully it hasn't done this, so it's sort of cooled enough between each melting to not mix too much, which was good. So just about done, down to the last two, and I'm really sorry you can't see it so well. I was trying to get my hands as much out of the way as I could, but of course I had to hold it in the right place to get my crayons into the right well. So pink is my last colour, and then I think I moved back to green, because for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't get the green to run down the page, so I think I moved back to that one and add a bit more to it. Yes, I did. And that wraps it up. That's pretty much how it ended, except I did go back and colour the end of the paintbrush, and you can see that there. I don't know why I didn't do it in the first place, but anyway, I just mixed up a little more of those colours and did the rest of the paintbrush, and that is the finished project. I hope you enjoyed having a look. I hope you have a go. Here are a few still photos for you to have a look at. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.